Hello all. Today's class is on parenting, positive parenting, community education. So let's go. So what is parenting? A marriage relationship undergoes huge transition from simple husband and wife relationship into parenthood with addition of a child to the family. So, a couple becomes a parent, becomes parents. The transition to parenthood is quite different from any other transition in life because it can create a lot of problems if it is not managed well. It demands a lot of responsibilities, and in fact, the task of parenting leaves a couple little to no time to devote for each other. So, parenting is a process of raising and educating a child from birth till they are, independent to be on their own. Responsible parenthood. So this term responsible parenting. Responsible parenthood refers to the will, ability, and commitment of parents to respond to the needs and aspirations of children and the entire family, particularly through family planning. Now, responsible parenthood means effective sharing of responsibilities of parents. So, one of the basic purposes of entering into marriage is that of procreation, or why do you why do you marry? So, a lot of people think they feel that marriage is a purpose of raising children. So, parents bear and rear children, and it is a joint responsibility of the mother and the father to plan childbirth, child spacing, and also make every provision for their future, their education, their nutrition, everything. So the parents are totally responsible for the children. So parental responsibilities relate to pregnancy, after antenatal care, or just after the newborn care, childbirth, postnatal care, child rearing, growth, development of the child. So all these things, the parents are responsible, and they need to be very they need to be planned, and they need to be very well aware of all those things. So what are the different aspects of the parenting? Now, when you get children, or when you children are born, what are the different things that you need to take care of? First one is physical care. Of course, you need to provide shelter, you need to provide them physical safety, nourishment, food. Then education, medical care, if they are having any sort of problem, you need to address all that. The next one is social development and emotional support. Now, there's a child should be given a lot of like the social development. The first social environment that the child has is their parents or their family. So what all are the different social needs of the child? This is like love, play, social skills, etiquette, how to behave with others, how to share, how to care for others, how to have empathy, the ethics and value system, like how you should be very loving and kind to people, and not just people, animals, all of those who are around you, how to respect people, how to take care of their needs, how to feel empathy for them, like that. So the norms and contributions to children's religion, ethnic customs, the parents will be the first the learning, or the the school for the child to learn all this. So each child will be brought up differently because based on their customs, their traditions, religious background, etc. Then the third kind of support that is expected of the parent is the financial support. Now, the aspect of parenting includes, of course, provision of financial support to the children for carrying out various activities such as medical care, education, and all other basic requirements. Now, let's discuss the parenting style. So, every parent has a different approach in how to interact and guide their child. So, a child's morals, principles, conduct are generally established through the parent-child bond. Now, different researchers have grouped parenting styles into 3, 4, 5, or more psychological constructs. So, every category will have some unique approach of how parents raise their children. So, generally, each parent will fall into one of these categories. Okay, so let's see which are the different categories in the next coming slides. Okay. So parenting style can also be situation dependent. Sometimes some people will be like gentle parents or positive parents, but then when the situation demands, they can be also aggressive. For example, those who are at home, they are very gentle. They tend to every needs of the child, and they are very soft. But then in another situation, when they are forced to, or when they are, the child is extremely angry, she's throwing a temper tantrum in a supermarket, that parent is like, they get aggressive, they can be very, strict or something like that. So it depends on the situation also. There's a models of parenting identify three characteristics of parent that determine the process through which parenting styles are developed. So first one is values and goals parents have in socializing children, how the child will interact with others. Then parenting practices employed by them, how do you practice what is your, how do you discipline your child? Like all that is very important in parenting styles, and attitudes that they express towards their children. What are all the attitudes? So let's see the different parenting styles. The first one is authoritative. Please make note, lot of questions come and it is very confusing. Okay, every year I can see questions from this parenting style, so please make note of this. Authoritative parenting. Now authoritative, please make note of this name, because there is another one which is a kind of similar to this. It is called as authoritarian. Now these are entirely different, so please make note, write it down. Authoritative. Okay, now authoritative is, or it's also called as democratic parenting style. Here the parents are they are supportive, they value independence. Okay, that is, they value independence in the children. And the democratic or authoritative parents, they will give support their child to develop on their own. Yet they also have some clear rules, like what is to be done, what is not to be done, but they are not very strict. They are not extremely strict, they are not very, like they don't have any like military rules or anything. That is, they leave certain things to the decision of the child. They also take into consideration the decisions of children. They also have like high expectations of their children, that is, they think that the children will do it on their own. Then they are very supportive, then value independence. What is the outcome in the child? The children are usually happy and confident, they are very responsible, independent, they are better decision makers, they are good, they have high academic performance, possess self-esteem, because they are doing a lot of things on their own. So what happens is, the parents are, they just give guidance, the parents only give guidance, but the children are responsible for doing things. So that is why they will achieve better, they will possess self-esteem, competent social skills, they will have good mental health. So these are the characteristics of authoritative. Now let's see, this is authoritarian. Just like I mentioned, they are very similar names, but they are kind of very different. So please don't get confused between authoritative and authoritarian. Now here in authoritarian, you can see this picture, we are very strict. It's one-way communication. The parent decides everything. That is, it's like a radio. The parent will say, you do this, you will, after your 12th, you will take MBBS, and that is my wish, and you will not do anything else. So what happens is, so they have low response, like they don't respond to their child, then they expect blind obedience. So whatever the parent says, the parent will expect the child to obey. Okay, unlike the authoritative. Now, authoritative means they are very supportive, they also they value independence. For example, if the authoritative parent might leave the decision making of career, education, etc., to the child. For example, they will ask the child, what do you want to, what is your interest, what do you find interesting, all that, and then they will make the decision collectively. They will just give guidance, and the child will, or the adolescent or whoever it is, they will make the decision. So this will happen from a very young age, whereas in the case of authoritarian, it is the parent who decides everything. So what happens is, they have very strict rules, they are very aggressive, they can't take a no from the child. Okay, so what are the outcomes in the children? The children tend to be unhappy, they are less independent, because all the decisions are being made by the parent, and so they will just depend on the parent for everything. For every small things also, they will have to ask the permission of the parent. They feel insecure because they are not independent. They possess low self-esteem because, of course, because they don't make any independent decision. They might also be poor in academic, they will have inferior social skills and become liar. Because here, what do you mean by liar is because when the parents are extremely strict, the small mistakes from the part of the child will also be punished very badly. So what happens is, in order to escape the punishment by the parent, the child tends to lie to the parent. For example, have you done your homework? What is, the child becomes like, they are so scared of the parent, because if the answer is no, if they say the truth, what happens is the parent will punish them, and it might be very harsh. So that is what happens is the child might lie. So that is a big problem of authoritarian parenting. However, in a case of authoritative, the child and the parent will have a good relationship. So they don't have to lie to the parent. They can be friendly. But in the case of authoritarian, the child will tend to become liars. Now the next one is permissive parenting. Now permissive means they are like, they're very nurturing and loving. They tend to give complete freedom without any consequences to the children. So what happens is there is no restriction at all. Whatever the child says, the parent will allow that. For example, the child says he wants the mobile phone for unlimited hours, the parent will give. But in the case of an authoritative parent, he will set some limits to the child. Okay, with the they might fix the screen time of a child. For example, the parent might ask, how long do you want to watch TV? So the child might say 2 hours or 1 hour, and then after 1 hour, the parent takes control and switches it off. But in the case of permissive parenting, what happens is the parents will allow everything. They won't demand anything. So if the child says that the child wants to watch TV for 3 hours or 4 hours, even after the time, if the parent says to off or switch off the TV, the child will not listen to it, and the parent is also not very demanding. So what happens is this leads to insecurity in children, because of no boundaries. There are no limits. So in the home atmosphere, they don't have any limits. They are allowed to do whatever they wish. So what happens is when they go to another social setting, for example, when they go to school, they will find it very difficult to obey rules because they are not used to setting any restrictions. They have their own, whatever they feel like they do at home. So when they are faced with restrictions, they find it very difficult. So they suffer from poor academic success, lack of motivation, and also they will be very self-centered because they will not be thinking about others. They will not have much of empathy because from their parents they have received lot of attention. So they might feel that they are the center of the world and everybody should consider them equally. The last one is neglectful parenting. Here the parents neglect the child. That is, they will have their own needs and the child's needs are not at all satisfied. They will even though the other needs are satisfied, maybe they will be given enough clothing, food, etc. But emotional needs are never satisfied. The parents will have no time for the child. That is what is meant by neglectful parenting. So usually the children will be given all the other facilities and etc. But the parents will not have much time for the for the child. So children will have hard time, forming relationships with other people, especially children of their own age. So that is how they will have low, they will even their academic performance and other responsibilities will suffer. So let's see what are the different, how much supportive. So these are the type of kind of things that you see. That is, in authoritative parenting, it is supportive and it is demanding. In the case of it is a supportive and a demanding, that is, the parent will support the child, the parent is accepting and also child-centered, but at the same time the parent expects also from the child. In the case, so the relationship is reciprocal. Reciprocal means it is a give and take policy. That is, the child is also contributing to the relationship, and responsive. So it is high in bi-directional communication. So it is like, it's not a unidirectional communication. So the parent asks the child for their choices, for their decision in certain things, etc. And the parents also will give suggestions. The parents will also give suggestions as to how long they have to, for doing any, buying things, etc. They won't be buying everything for the child. Whatever the child asks, they can't buy it. So they will set restrictions, etc. Now, authoritarian, the relationship is controlling, it is power assertive, it is high in unidirectional, that is a parent to child. And the parent is also rejecting, and the type of parenting is parent centered. Even in the case of neglectful parenting, here also the relationship is rejecting or neglecting, and there is uninvolved, and it is parent centered because the parents' needs are being given more preference than the child's. In the case of permissive parenting, here the type of parenting style is child centered. The parent is highly accepting, and the parent does not expect much from the child. The relationship is indulgent, and there is low in control at times. So because the child is allowed to do whatever she or he pleases. Okay, that is how there is not much of expectations from the child. So what happens is the child might misbehave with others. They might be, rude with others, and the parents might not be wanting to, correct them. So that is what is permissive. So these are the different 4 main types of parenting: authoritative, authoritarian, permissive, and rejecting. So the best kind of parenting of all the 4 is the authoritative parenting, because here the relationship is bidirectional. It is at the same, even though it is child centered, it also has the parents are also, they give directions to the child. So let's see the impact of parenting styles. So authoritative parenting styles tend to result in children who are happy, capable, and successful. Permissive parenting often results in children who rank low in happiness and self-regulations, because, as I've mentioned earlier, they are used to getting everything done, so they don't have much of a discipline. So these children are more likely to experience problems with authority and tend to perform poorly in school. And what about uninvolved parenting styles? Rank lowest across all domains because they lack any self-control, they have low self-esteem, and are less competent than their peers when when the parents are completely neglectful. So we have missed out the authoritarian one. Here, authoritarian, as we have mentioned earlier, the children tend to be unhappy, less independent, they feel insecure, and they also have low self-esteem and poor social skills. Now let's see what is positive parenting. Now, positive parenting is a new term which has been, stated for. Okay. So it is the continual relationship of a parent and child or children that includes caring, teaching, leading, communicating, and providing for the needs of child consistently and unconditionally. So the Committee of Ministers of the Council of Europe in 2006 defined positive parenting as nurturing, empowering, non-violent, and which provides recognition and guidance which involves setting of boundaries to enable the full development of the child. So here you see it is nurturing, it is empowering, and it is, of course, non-violent. Okay. So it involves guiding, leading, teaching, caring, empowering the child, nurturing. It is sensitive to the child's needs. It is consistent. Consistency is very important because, one day if the parent is extremely nice and, friendly to the child, and if the next day he is the opposite, that's very bad. So the parent should be consistently good, or it should have consistent behavior. So otherwise the child will be very confused as to, my father, I showed him my painting one day, he was very happy. The next day he hardly, he completely neglected me. So that is not a consistent behavior. So the parent should always be consistent, and it should always non-violent. There should not be any violence from the side of the parent. It should also provide regular open communication. The child should be very free to communicate their needs, their feelings, their emotions to the parent. It also should provide affection, emotional security, emotional warmth, unconditional love, recognize the positive, respects the child's developmental state. Now, developmental stage is, we know that the parent should not be extremely expectant. Like they should expect only according to their developmental stage. Children, you can't expect a 3-year-old to to memorize the multiplication table. Like, what is 3 into 8? If you're asking a 3-year-old child, that is being stupid. So just in case, like, so that is what they should respect the child's developmental stage, and they should set their expectations based on that. And it rewards accomplishments. So whenever the child behaves well, they should be they should feel that they should encourage them, and also reward them if they have accomplished something. It should set boundaries. That is very important. When it comes to permissive parenting, there is no boundary for anything. There is no boundary for screen time. There is no boundary for playtime. There's no boundary for like anything. It is their children's will. But in case of positive parenting, there are boundaries. You're not supposed to use your mobile phone for more than 2 hours. So those are called as boundaries, setting restrictions. Then showing empathy for the child's feelings. It supports child's best interests. So along with these qualities, Godfrey in 2019 proposes that the underlying assumption of positive parenting is that all children are born good, they are altruistic, and desire to do the right thing. So it is like the children are born good, and it is the environment that decides or that determines how they will be. Okay. So what does parenting, positive parenting in a nutshell look like? It is spending one-on-one time and delighting in the moments of connection with the child. So you are actually giving quality time to your child. They praising specific action through words. Here you see rewards or bribes. For example, positive parenting gives more impetus on words rather than gifts or rewards. Here you see, for example, if you ask the child, if you complete your food, this meal, if you completely eat this rice, I will give you a chocolate. Now this is called as bribing. That is, the child will do it for that chocolate. So instead of that, just encourage them through words. Just tell them that you can become healthy, your skin will shine if you eat these carrots or anything. Like, instead of telling them that you will be rewarded with a chocolate if you eat this rice or vegetable, that is being silly. You are just looking for a easy way, but there the outcome might be negative, because the child might just eat it for the chocolate instead of understanding, or instead of doing it with any they will not have any interest to do it. Then recognizing that parenting can be stressful and focusing on what you can control. This is very important, because most of the time what we see is parents are extremely stressed out, and they feel that they have a lot to do. They expect a lot from their children. So you might like, when the children are not obeying their thing, their whatever they say, they feel very frustrated. So it's very important that the parents should focus on what they can control. Then they should provide consistent age appropriate consequences and guidelines for child behavior. Now, see, for a 2-year-old, you can't explain logically what is wrong with playing with fire or anything like that. You just have to prevent that, right? So it is something age appropriate. Now, only when they are able to understand logic or reason, you need to use that. Otherwise, you can use other methods. Use positive interactions to correct problematic behavior instead of yelling, timeouts, or nagging. Then work towards the balance of meeting parental needs and child needs. It's not be that the parent should always be behind the child, and also the parent should also not always give time for his or her own work. So there should be a balance between the parents and the child's needs. Now let's talk about parent education. So parenting education is defined as any deliberate effort to help parents to be more effective in caring for children. So there are many different processes for educating parents, like group meetings, resource centers, newsletters, radio programs, home visits, mentoring, internet resources, support groups, books. So the content of these different efforts vary substantially, ranging from behavior management approach to relationship enhancement approaches. So they all have the programs, they all have this in common, that the conviction that parents play a vital role in the development of children. And it is possible to help the parents to be more effective by training and education. So what are the contents of parenting education? there are different approaches, they have different approaches based on like how, based on like, it could be about the nature of humans, like are people basically good or bad, the optimal outcome, what do you want your child to be? Do you want your child to be an obedient child who only listens to you, or do you want an independent thinker? And the process of change, how do you want to make the change? Just by commanding or by invitation? Invitation means there is a choice. Command means there is no choice. So it depends on how you want the outcome. So the advice given to parents centuries ago, long time back, it was all about submission to parents. Whatever the parent told, you need to obey. That was what was like earlier days. But now the parenting, effective parenting, the definition has changed so much that we are actually becoming more and more child centric. Okay, earlier days in the 1930s, 90s, etc., it is okay to beat your child, but now it is a strict no. So since the 1930s, there has been a clear recommendation that the parents should be more loving, there should be more involved care. And research on parenting shows that parents who are supportive of their children and who provide reasonable controls are more likely to have socially competent children than those who are very authoritarian. Now, social competence includes confidence, independence, responsibility, and achievement. So those parents who are like, who give more support, they will their children will be having more independence and confidence compared to those parents who give less support. They will lead to low self-esteem, risk-taking behavior. Then vital, that is how you can see. Then how do you say? Then another way in which you can parenting, one important aspect is method of control. How do you control your children? Methods of control have been divided into three categories. The first is power, use of power. That is exactly in authoritarian. That is, the parent will tell and force the child by use of power by the parents. So in which parents attempt to force or pressure their child to behave in a certain way. So in this way, the child becomes less socially competent. So when the parents use power to control their children, the children are likely to see their choices as governed by external forces. They feel that they are not in control. They do as they are told, but as long as there is power to make them. So they become very either passive or rebellious. So they want an external person to tell them what to do. They can't do things on their own. So they can't take any initiative. Now, the next second type of control is love withdrawal. In this, the parents show disapproval for behavior that displeases them, like ignoring, shaming, or even isolating the child. For example, if the parent or the child has, they have achieved very low scores in some exam, the parent might ignore the child, they might shame him, or they may even isolate the child. The use of love withdrawal shows mixed results. Like some studies have found it to be okay, but others have found it resulted in depressed children, because the child might be very sad because of this kind of behavior. So the new research on parents' use of psychological control may have identified what parts of love withdrawal are especially toxic. So when parents use guilt or manipulation to control their children, so what happens is, for example, how they use guilt or manipulation is they feel that, they make the child feel extremely guilty. For example, the parent is telling, this is why why I give you all these things, I have provided you so much. I have never given any importance to myself. See, instead of buying a sari for me, I bought this for you. And this is how you behave to me. So there, the child is, the parents are actually using guilt or manipulation. So the child is made to feel guilty, and they feel that the parents, instead of telling it in another way, the parents use guilt or emotional blackmail. So this results in anxiety or depression for the children. So when the parents use reasonable monitoring and negotiated control of behavior, children are less likely to get in trouble. So reasonable monitoring means when they are when they get low marks, you can just talk to them in a very reasonable manner instead of shaming them or ignoring them. Now, the third type of control is induction. Now, induction includes reasoning with the child and helping them understand the effects of their behavior on others. For example, a parent might say like when the child is yelling at some, when they are fighting with their sibling, like sister. So the parent might say, when you yell at your sister, she feels very sad and afraid. She feels that you don't like her. So this is like the parent is trying to make them understand the effect of their behavior. So induction is the type of control that is most likely to result in socially competent children, because the children understand why their parents are actually giving them control. There are also clear benefits for a child's moral development when a parent uses induction, because induction teaches children to think about the effect of their behavior on others. So it activates and cultivates the child's own logic and compassion. So these children are likely to behave well, they are better develop moral sensitivity, and they are less vulnerable to external influence. So you can see from the three types of control, the first one is the use of power. The second one is love withdrawal, and the third one is induction. So among the three, induction is considered to be the most effective. So these are the different aspects of parenting education, methods of control, etc. Now let's see and discuss another topic, that is community education. Now community education, it is also known as community-based education or community learning and development. So in order to promote learning and social development, work with individuals and groups in their communities using a range of formal and informal methods. That is, you are educating a community. So rather than within any schools or colleges or universities, community education is something like, it is a lifelong learning. Okay. So it can involve schools, etc., but it is not very formal. So in the community education, there is something called as self-determination. So self-determination means the community residents will have a right and a responsibility to be involved in assessing the community needs and identifying community resources that can be used to address those needs. Then self-help, being that people are best served by their leaders when their capacity to help themselves is acknowledged. So when people assume responsibility, they achieve some degree of independence. So self-help means community. When you are educating a community, it is very important that people are themselves competent. They have their own skills. Next one is leadership development. So in a community, when you want to educate the community, it's very important that there should be some leader. So you need to give training to local problem solving, decision making, group processes skills, etc. Then lifelong learning. So we know that education is a continuous process, and everyone in the community will share the responsibility of educating all members of the community. So it can be like mutual benefit. So somebody from the community might be knowing certain things and they can teach to the other people who know some other things. Next aspect is institutional responsiveness. Now, there are certain institutions which are catering to the community education. So the public institutions, they exist to serve the public. They are obligated to develop programs and services that address the constantly changing public needs and interest. For example, a Krishi Vigyan Kendra, or some institute which is providing information about farming or fish culture or something like that. So those are like the public institutions are there which provides community education. Then there should be integrated delivery of services, means different organizations can come together and they can pool in their resources to meet a common goal. and serve the public by collaborating with different organizations and agencies with similar goals and purposes. Then maximum use of resources, like when you are for the for all type of education is for the well-being or for the upliftment of the community, so there should be maximum use of financial, physical and human resources. Then only there the needs of the community are met. Then localization, all the things should be local. That is community services, programs, volunteer opportunities which are close to people's homes. They have higher potential for public participation. So there should not be like one person comes from the US to teach us some villager in Karnataka. So it should be certain things, the services, programs, everything should be localized, then only it will be effective. Inclusiveness, of course, people should be included. You should feel a sense of inclusiveness, that is they should be good participation among the community members. Certain programs, activities, services should involve different sections of the society or the community, so that they feel they are a part of this education program. Then access to public information. Public information means whatever we want to educate them on. Like, for example, you want to give them information about better parenting skills. Then you need to provide different, information, like you can provide them with brochures, you can provide them with, posters, you can, or even other videos, etc. So community education advocates and supports the creation of innovative programs and collaboration between all members of the community. So it is for the purpose of advancing community learning and sustainability. So this is all about community education and parenting. Now this is, we know that parenting is a different topic and community education is different, but here I have clubbed them together because in your syllabus they are kept together. Okay. So community education is all about educating the community and the different aspects of it, like inclusiveness, how there should be access to public information, there should be maximum use of resources. Then how different integrated services can be brought about by clubbing together different organizations and agencies. How leaders should be nurtured from the community. How it should promote lifelong education and self-help, etc. Okay, so hope it is clear to all of you.